Hi guys, as you know, Tuesday's my very favorite day of the week. You know, I love being with you and interacting and answering your questions, but you also know that I'm headed to Australia and New Zealand and actually leaving pretty soon. So while I'm away, you know, I never, ever, ever want to miss a live. It is not only is it my favorite day in the week, but I do consider it like one of the most important things that I do. So we have come up with a solution, and I hope you guys like it, because Kenneth, who's been on with me before, one of the strategy specialists, very capable and smart, well, he's going to be here in the studio, and then I'm going to zoom in from wherever it is that I happen to be while I'm away. So what we're going to do is there will be one day, the timing is going to be different on it, and I'm sure you guys can understand it, because while I'm always here for you, we might, while I'm traveling, need it to shift just a little bit. And we will announce to you when those times are. The first two will still definitely be on Tuesday, but I think it isn't a little bit later in the day. It's at 3 p.m. It'll be at 3 p.m. And then the last week before I come home, it's going to have to be on Monday because the day that I would be doing it is a travel day. So just a little quick thing about that while I'm away, not leaving you hanging, and we can still do our Q&As. So we'll pay attention. And we'll go right to the questions today. By the way, happy St. Paddy's Day for everybody out there. Even if you're not Irish, then you can still enjoy a bit of green. Can I even begin to tell you how many texts I got this morning? Wear green, wear green. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to dive right into the questions. There's so much that's going on between the Middle East and here at home with the private equity and everything. So hopefully you guys have a lot of questions in those regards, and we'll take it from here. And I'm going to start with Cynthia Galbavi. And if I butcher anybody's name, I'm really, really sorry. But she says, I don't understand why silver is not more valuable than gold when gold is more plentiful and silver appears to be way less. Well, first of all, gold is the only asset that could support being sound money, the primary currency metal, because unlike silver, it does not get used up. And so remember, there are 4 key pieces to sound money, or that this is how it was sold anyway, as a tool of measure. And that is the one little piece that makes gold the anchor, because it can be used as a long-term tool of measure, since it does not get used up. And you need something that is solid and consistent and always there. But this is also why I say silver is the fuse. And you see it is a lot more volatile, because even though both physical gold and physical silver are used in so many of the global sectors in the global economy, there still is that differentiation where silver really gets used up. So that's why you think, well, this should be more expensive because there's less of it, and there's even going to be less of it. But you need an anchor for the monetary system, and gold not being used up, but rather being indestructible is the tool that gets used. And that's the difference between the two, and why you would see it like that. And remember, too, if I explain something and it doesn't make sense to you, or I wasn't clear enough, that's on me, not on you. So let me know, and I will try and explain it a little bit differently. And Rhino Linings 49.95. I'd like to know about a practical plan to use gold once the dollar collapses. Say I have many ounces of gold. Now we are in a very high or hyperinflation economy. How do I pay my mortgage and taxes with gold? No bank that I know accepts it. And when can you move that thing? It's blocking the words. Sorry. Oh, when the poor, thank you, perfect. When the poor LCS goes bankrupt during this scenario, then what? I heard there are over 30 avenues of ways to sell gold and that there are always buyers, but I'd like to see some proof of that. Thank you. That's been my biggest holdback in gold. Solve that problem and I'm all in. So maybe one of the things there are, okay, so the avenues to say use your, all right, let me take let me take a breath. And I'm just going to speak directly to the strategy that we execute at Zang International. First of all, we have a deep pool of buyers ourselves. So if you are working with us, or whoever it is that you're working with, quite honestly, if it's a larger firm, then you are typically going to not have, or you shouldn't have any problem liquidating back through that same company. That's number one. But having said that, and like I've shown you, there are so many users of both gold and silver. There are smelters. I think maybe what we need to do is maybe have a list that is more clear. I mean, you can call us and we are happy to send you the piece that I put together that has actually all of the buyers that I could think of. But you're going to do it through whoever you bought it from. That's why it's important to create this relationship. If you go into a mom and pop shop, a lot of times people right now are feeling like, well, that won't work because maybe they're not buying back. And the reason why they're not buying back is because they probably don't have the funds to buy back and maintain their business. That's the advantage of working with a large firm that's structured like we are, because we have that pool of wholesalers behind us. And there are also other avenues. There are auctions. There's also smelters. You're going to get below spot, but they'll liquidate it. So let's see. Let me, you know what? Why don't you grab that and give it to me? Now, this is not going to happen until I get back, so I'm just going to warn you, but I actually think that would be a great video. So I'll do a video on that. How about that? Okay? And that'll give me time to really kind of think it even more through and give you some practical applications. Okay? And Sheila Perkins 4375 asks, what is your opinion of proof coins as an investment tool? Not my favorite, because I've been in these markets long enough to see that there are times when the wholesalers, if there's tight supply, then those premiums will be ginormous, and the bid-ask buyback spreads on top of that will also be ginormous. And I've also seen that collapse. And proof coins, you can hold them in your IRA. So even though the Mint wants to tell you that they're numismatic, they're in exactly the same category as any other kind of gold that you can hold in an IRA. And as you probably know, if I can hold it in an IRA, I'm not talking about silver, I'm just talking about gold. But if you can hold it in an IRA, then I'm not having it. Because truthfully, and the bottom line is, that's monetary gold. And it's also the kind of gold that's easy to control using the spot gold contracts or spot silver contracts, depending upon what you're looking at. So I am not keen on proof coins personally, but everybody needs to do whatever it is that they're going to do. And by the way, if this is a choice that you make to hold your gold and or silver inside of an IRA, then it's kind of inside the system. So I would recommend having the kind of gold like this kind to properly diversify that. This is what you would hold yourself. And so if there is an overt confiscation and they do a big sweep of IRAs, boom, you're made whole. And Silverit 3258 asks, we used physical silver to pay for our gutter system. The small private company we dealt with was more than happy to do that. Then I needed cash for another project. I converted some modern gold at Cascade Refinery in Utah. After things settled, I regrouped and went back to Cascade, replaced everything I had sold and more. However, our next major purchase will be with Lynette. Oh, thank you. We have bought from Lynette in the past, but when she was working for someone else. Thank you so much for this comment, because it kind of does go to the previous question on how you can use it, and you even brought up the refinery up there. So thank you very much, and I really am honored that you're working with us. And GSD Puppies 3230, and my puppy did not choose to go in. She's lazy today. She chose to go back to sleep. Poor thing. I just work her so hard. But Lynette, can you explain how at the beginning of the money printing cycle, how it is corporate debt? Yes, and we love when your dog pops his head up to say hi. Love your show and thank you. Yes, and let's see. I think I can grab it from this, or you want to? Okay. I mean, this is arguably, and I can tell you, Kelly is working on this whole chart, recreating it in a more usable way to what we have. But let's just see if I can't find that for you pretty easily. I'm sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Let's see, open. Don't you hate it when your mouse just goes away? Okay. Okay. And the one that I want particularly is this one. Okay. I will be able to show this to you. Give me 2 seconds. Got it. Okay. So there are 2 things in here. And, oops. Okay. That's what I wanted. All right. So if you have a bill in your wallet, you can pull it out. If it's a U.S. bill and up on the top, it says Federal Reserve note. Well, we do know that a note is a debt instrument and the Federal Reserve is a corporation. And this is exactly how they did that. Now, like I said, I have Kelly working on the original graphics and charts to make it much cleaner. But if you look down on the very bottom, you see how there is, let me kind of move this a little bit. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. But can you see how on the bottom there's that very dark black band? Those are the gold holdings. And then you can see how it almost looks like an ice cream sandwich. That is corporate debt. Private commercial debt. This is according to the Federal Reserve, not me. Private commercial debt that has been turned into money, monetized as Federal Reserve notes and checking accounts. This comes directly from the horse's mouth. And so I think it's interesting that it's like at least the original kickoff was basically at a 10-to-1 ratio. But the dark black line on the bottom, that was the U.S. gold holdings in 1914. Now, the rest of that chart, and you're going to see, you've seen it before if you watch the bar series, but this is why we're going to clean it up, because that's what it looked like, right? So what I just showed you is down in that little, on the left-hand side, that itty-bitty piece, that was the corporate debt that was turned into Federal Reserve notes. So it's corporate debt because the Federal Reserve is a private corporation and a note is a debt instrument, but that's how they did it to kick off. And I'd also show you, but if we wait until Kelly finishes it, because I will just do a piece just on this alone, but you can see how there's this huge rise of the ability to borrow more, and it was held back until it flooded the system into the 70s. Really interesting. But that's how they did that. Thank you. Kind of eye-opening when you realize that you're not working for real money, you're working for corporate debt. And with corporate debt, that's how they can inflate it away. Because when you have debt, you have interest on that debt. And the more debt that you grow, the weaker you are, unless your income can keep pace with it. Now, inflation is a tool to make it easier to pay that corporate debt over time, right? Because you're repaying that debt with, in this country, dollars that have less and less and less purchasing power. So that pushes the price of stocks and bonds and anything else they target, real estate, etc. That pushes the price in terms of this stuff up as the purchasing power of this stuff goes down. And ultimately, you've seen my $10 trillion Zimbabwe note a million times. Ultimately, 10 trillion times zero is zero. But I hope that was made more clear. Otherwise, too, if you could go back and watch the bar piece that I did, that series that I did, number one, do the first one, because that's where I go into that in a deeper explanation. Though I can promise you, once I have that chart that set up in a way that you can see it more clearly, which she's working on right now, but I'm giving her all the time and space she needs because it's an extraordinarily complicated and complex chart. I promise you I will go over that. We'll just do something just on that one chart so you can see it for yourself. And Jan Myers 44 says, full question. If you could keep the thank you. Fun question. See? Fun question. Lynette, how many pairs of glasses do you have? They're all so pretty. Thank you very much. I think I have, I just counted, I think I have about 24, 25 pairs of glasses. These in particular, actually, what I like about them is I could change the color on these. I can't do it on any of the others. But thank you very much. There was a long time where I did not like buying clothes or anything like that, but I could buy glasses. So that's kind of what started me on that. And now, of course, I have to match because I do it for you guys. Thank you. I think that Ashley also did something on social media where she took a picture of my glass drawers because I have two. And Marty P 7233, looking into pre-1933 coins, the prices have such a wide range due to numismatic values. I'm worried about paying too much and not being able to recoup the value. Tips? Well, number one, you're absolutely right. Those prices are going to vary based upon the quality, which is not the quantity of gold in them, but the level of blemish, and therefore also the rarity factor. And you see, what you can easily do, what I've done over all these years, is I've broken them out to see how the different areas perform. And that's why I always tell you the first thing you're going to do is you're going to talk about your goals and what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and also why I say there is gold and then there is gold. So number one, I would say that you're worried about paying too much. That also takes us to fundamental value. Because how do you know what you should really pay if you don't know what something is truly worth in terms of this stuff? Because this is what's going to, at the end of the day, define it when that reset comes in and they revalue. I say they revalue gold. Actually, they're revaluing the dollar to zero because it has no intrinsic value, is used in one place, against gold, which is all intrinsic value, and it's used in 33 places, right? So when they do that revaluation, and I can tell you for an absolute fact, I never pay, that's not always ever been true for the legacy gold, but I typically do not pay above fundamental value. And so that means that I can go up to $38,000 on a coin, including all the fees and everything in there, and not really worry about it, because the more of this that they do, the higher in terms of this that they will go. So a good way is to work with somebody that's reputable and have a plan. That's why you want to call us and do business with us, because I'm not saying there aren't others out there, but I am the only person that I know personally that have studied currencies and currency life cycles and those patterns since 1987. If you don't have a plan, then what you have is hopium. And hopium is great. I want you to have hope because there are a lot of opportunities that present as well, but that's not a very good plan. So there are a wide range. You define what you're trying to accomplish, and then that would lead you to maybe your savings gold or your first line of defense barterability gold in the different sizes, right? Same thing with silver. You want a variety of sizes. This is your first line of defense, along with cash and maybe some gold backs and maybe some digital gold. That's your first line of defense, and they do not need to be numismatic for that, right? You want them, I want them pre-1933, because that whole blanket statement is anything minted prior to 1933. So this is anything minted. But then you're starting to get up into the different levels to say, like, pay off a mortgage or properly diversify whatever fiat money wealth you have to keep in, say, a 401k or something that you're choosing not to liquidate or you have no choice and have to maintain. Then this is not like a super high coin for that. That would take us into the lower slab levels. You know, I suggest you call us because we'll walk you through each area and why, and we'll also show you that when we're selecting coins for you, we have a big list, right? And what we're looking for is the cheapest house in the best neighborhood. So the area that will support whatever that goal happens to be, but we want the least expensive coin in that whole area. And I usually use real estate as an example of that because most people will recognize that. You want the cheapest house in the best neighborhood. But it really does, you know, the recouping is nothing as long as you don't go above fundamental value. That's kind of like a snoozer. It's one of the things that always made me feel comfortable about gold. And just like when I first became a stockbroker, I worked with treasuries. Why? Because I had a lot to learn, right? But what I knew was the government could tax you to get the money to repay you. So that is really what makes it considered or classified as a safe asset or like the safest asset, because they can just create the money to repay that debt out of thin air. To me, that's not really safe, but that's pretty much work with us. I mean, what can I tell you? I can't recommend another firm because I didn't go there, did I? I'm not there anymore, am I? Because I need to be able to do what puts your best interest first. And I could tell you without a doubt that every single person that comes into the fold and works with us at Zang Enterprises, and I'm talking about the strategy specialists and the support staff and all of that, every single one of us wants to make a positive difference for the world. Every single one of us. And they all want to do the right thing by the client first. Then everything else will flow. So the tip is call us and make sure you're clear on the fundamental value, because then you won't be paying too much, and make sure you have your goals established. And Enisimo Sexto asks, should I sell or should I buy? Buy, even though I cannot stand Kramer, buy. It's on sale. What, are you kidding me? If you know that it's worth $38,000 or $40,000 or heck, $20,000, and it's a $5,000, it's on sale. Buy. Let the paper markets do what the paper markets are going to do, because they're breaking down anyway. It is definitely the time to accumulate while you still can. because I don't know what opportunities or how much longer we have the opportunities before you even see the spot market go substantially higher than where it is right now. And pending new name 7232, Lynette, if America loses control over Middle East trade in oil dollar trades, what does that mean for the acceleration into precious metals? It looks like BRICS has strategically won versus the West. Absolutely, because they've been positioning and preparing for the transition that started a year ago last January from the paper markets dictating price discovery to the physical markets dictating price discovery. And you can also notice that the premiums, which are still chump change, but it's showing you this break. And I would agree with you that whether it's the BRICS or just China or what have you, yeah, they've strategically put everything in place to deal with it, while here we in the West and oil and dollar trades, that's been really changing since 2000. The euro was created to take over as the world reserve currency from the US dollar, but that didn't really happen. However, there are lots of reserve currencies now. There's not just one like there was. So, yeah, if America loses control, it might be happening as we speak. So, yeah. I'll kind of add into that I do think that the most likely outcome for a universal currency is going to come through the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the SDR. It's a basket currency, meaning they can put every single currency in that basket. Right now there's 6, but they could put every single currency in that basket. And they have, by the way, created this universal currency umbrella, making cross-border transactions between corporations and governments easy peasy, because then in the SDR, it can easily translate into dollars or yen or wherever you are in the world. And the public, the individuals like you and me, just see it as we still have our own sovereign dollar currency, when in reality, we will be under a one world order if they have their way. And this is one of the big battles in getting redeemable gold into the system again, so that we have a system that is based on sound money and the public has control. Because if you don't like what you see the government or the central bank doing, you pull the gold out of it. As crazy as that may sound, I got news for you. It's the way it was, and you can do it in a digital system too. You can easily do it in a digital system. And optimistic beekeeper, hi Lynette and team, can you see a situation where we all get transferred to a CBDC without a hyperinflationary event? Thanks for making time to do the live while you're traveling. You guys really need to know it is right up there with the highest of my priorities is to be here for you, period. So I'm happy to do that. A big crisis where they just deposit the CBDCs for you, and not during a hyperinflationary event. Yes, I can see where they would try and position that in. We've seen it before, where they get that into position. I mean, the Fed now accounts, whether you realize it or not, here in the U.S., we all have an account that's directly linked to the Federal Reserve. And you might recall during the COVID crisis that when they were sending out checks to everybody and going, boy, if we just had one way, we could just make this deposit and there it is. So that could easily happen before the hyperinflation is obvious to the public, but it would be in a crisis circumstance because they'd have to get people to use it. right? That's the goal, is to get people used to using it and feeling comfortable with it and thinking of it the same way that they think about this, which is exactly what they wanted to do and did do in transitioning from this to this, right? Yeah, we got comfortable with it, and we got comfortable with that as well. That's a $10 bill. I like to do it with the 20. Here is the 20. Oh, here's the earlier 20. Can you see how much alike these things look? Pretty much similar. Everybody worked with them, all three of them, at the same stated value for 20 years. So when these two things went away, nobody thought anything had changed, when in reality, everything has. Let's see, Bitcoin was born in 2009. Wall Street has created this huge infrastructure and trading mechanisms for these cryptocurrencies. The Stablecoin Act was passed. What do you think? Have they gotten enough adoption? Can they make that transition invisibly? And you think that it's in your best interest when it ain't in your best interest. So that's, yeah, I can see it, but, well, you didn't say before a hyperinflationary event. You just said without one. No, I can't see it without one, whether it's before that happens or after that happens, because a major crisis has to happen. But yeah, they got to get you to use it, and they need a big enough crisis to do that. And Wolf 728 asks, Lynette, I thought the purpose of buying gold and silver is to use it directly to pay expenses and bills, not sell it back to dealers to get dollars to use as payment. It's a combination of the two. Number one, we've seen in countries like Venezuela and their hyperinflationary event that's gone on and on and on, how things are actually priced in grams of gold and grams of silver as well as bolivars, right? So for the smaller day-to-day things, or to the person's earlier point, and I've done this myself with attorneys and different people, you know, I'll offer, okay, I could pay you with all fiat, I could pay you with all gold, I could pay you with all silver, I could pay you with a combination. Many times they're like, no, just give me the fiat, because they don't really understand what's happening. But there have absolutely been times when they're like, yeah, okay, I'd rather have the gold, I'd rather have the silver, I'd rather have a combination of all three, or however they want to do it. So understand that if somebody knows what's going on, like if I'm going to go during the reset system and I see that cup formation happening, let's just pick real estate just to give us a target, right? And I see that bottom cup forming, which is telling me that's an accumulation. That cup is an accumulation pattern, and it tells me that the smart money has recognized an undervalued circumstance and is quietly accumulating. So at that point, this is where both of those worlds may be straddled. We will find out. If you're buying it from a corporate system and everything is all tied in, then yeah, you probably are going to have to convert it to whatever that currency of the realm is. So you convert it and then you convert it into whatever that asset is. If, however, if you're working with me and I have a piece of real estate that for whatever reason I want to sell, and you say, hey, let's get these priced and I'll pay you in this. If that's a choice of mine, that's what I'm taking. I don't want the stinky dollars. I'm too familiar with what they really are, which is just debt garbage. So it's going to be a combination of the two, depending upon what it is that you have to do. And that is, by the way, part of the exit strategy. Both of those. The part where it's direct is why you need fractional pieces. It's why you need these little teeny fractional pieces, or the kind of silver and broken gold pieces, what have you, that you can clip, right? And that's what they're doing. They're using like flakes of gold and flakes of and things like that in South America to barter with. So it isn't going to be one way or the other, woof. And if that's what you ever got from me, then I apologize, because I believe it will be a combination. And remember, when people first recognize it, things will get very, very local for a while. And that's also when you'll see the fractional barterable silver come a lot more into vogue. But I think it's going to be a combination of the two. And part of the exit strategy that we've set up is how we're going to do those liquidations, because that's critically important. And the time to get those things in place and the plan in place is today, not when you need it. It's up front, and we've been doing that. So it'll be a combination. And Sandra Dana 06 asks, do you trust IRAs? No, I don't trust IRAs. I remember when they were created in the 70s, and it really is a risk shift mechanism. And it's not within your control, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So personally, I had a SEP IRA for many, many, many years. And we got to a certain point in the trend cycle, and I went, don't trust it anymore. And in that, I had bullion. And I also had some stocks and some other things in there. But I got to a certain point in the trend cycle, and I went, nope, we're too close. And so I liquidated all of that, and I still have a retirement plan, but it's in my possession now, not in someone else's. And low blood pressure asks, Lynette, is Iran what they will use to blame total economic collapse on? More than likely. Yeah, this oil spike. I mean, I was driving down the road the other day, and what did I see? I saw gasoline prices above $5 a barrel, or a gallon rather. What have you guys been seeing? Because they say that around didn't they say that the average price for a gallon of gas was like $2 or $3.50 or something ridiculous like that?
When was that?
Yeah, good question. When was that? And even a better question, where was that? Because I've never personally seen it. And yet I'm told it exists. So if any of you have $3.50 a gallon gas, let us know. I know here in Phoenix, it's over $5. So yeah, I think the war, and that's what they always use. They use the war to justify it. And let me tell you, this war, there is an awful lot of testing of an awful lot of stuff that's going on. The way that we do war is changing with the drones and autonomous, and yet we still have boots on the ground and in cyberspace and in the financial areas that we can't see. So yeah, I think that this could absolutely be well, it's not us. I mean, yeah. The other thing that I find really kind of interesting is how Europe is not getting involved in the war in Iran. Canada came out and said they're not getting involved in the war in Iran. So, this goes back to the allies. When you don't create that ally circumstance, you can't be surprised when they're not there for you. It works both ways. And Zero Game sends, hello, Lynette. What do you think about stock certificates getting phased out? And what is your take on the DRS ownership? Thank you. Well, let me tell you, this has been a long time in coming, and I was there in the beginning in the 80s when I was a stockbroker, and everything, this goes to all of that, assets in-house, so that the legal ownership, I mean, if you're holding the stock certificate, even if you're holding the stock certificate in your name at the company, then legally you are the owner. And what that means is that equity that you have cannot be used by anybody but you as collateral to borrow or do whatever else. Well, Wall Street and the banks, not just Wall Street, but JP Morgan, the banks, they're pretty greedy. And they make most of their money on trading. And so what do they need? They need the ability to borrow more and more and more and more and more. They're not doing it out of savings. They're doing it out of borrowing. And that means they need more and more and more and more collateral. And that's really what all of that is about. It's giving the banks more collateral because they are stretched really thin. And if you stop and think about when Lehman went out, it was a 30-to-1 leverage ratio, which means that for every $1 in equity, they had $30 in debt. And even though they want you to think that the balance sheet of these banks are so much better than they were, there is so much that's being done, which is starting to unfold. I mean, over all these years, and some of you are new to me, so you don't really know a lot about my work, but I've been talking about the private equity and the private debt markets forever, really since 2008, because things shifted. And much as they wanted you to believe, the powers, those that empower the banks, that there was distance between the banking system that had just collapsed and been bailed out and the private equity and debt investors, it was very obvious that a lot of that money was coming from the banks. And now, what are we seeing? We're seeing big bank after big bank after big bank admit to the level of exposure that they previously had denied. Plus, I'm sorry, but I mean, you would have to be a forensic accountant, which I am not. I'm not an accountant, and I'm certainly not a forensic accountant, but I know how to dig into stuff. The level of leverage is substantially higher. Yeah, maybe that leverage is hidden a little bit more, but it's substantially higher than it was in 2008. To the admitted tune, not my supposition, but what they're admitting to over almost $7 quadrillion. How do you bail out $7 quadrillion? Do you think this would have absolutely zero impact on inflation or anything else? I mean, so yeah, that's what I think about it. And the tokenization is also about giving them more collateral and access to the collateral that they didn't have access to before. Like, boy, if they could collateralize, if they could tokenize this, they totally want to tokenize this. I'm not gonna do it voluntarily, I'll tell you that. So yeah, what do I think? I think it's all about the banks, their ability to borrow more and use your equity and all of that ownership. We are not legal owners. We are beneficial owners. That's it. Doesn't mean anything in a court of law. Doesn't mean anything at all. And Sandra Dana 06 asks, I don't want to pay 28% capital gains tax on gold or silver. Is there a legal way to get out of it? At this point, probably not, but 28% of something is way better than 100% of nothing. And so you kind of weigh you have to weigh everything, honestly. But if you want to know a way around that, then you join the Sound Money movement and you demand to get redeemable gold back in the system again. On a state level, you've seen where states have been eliminating the tax on gold and silver. They should be. If enough states do it at that level, then we're going to have a shot at getting it done in the federal level. And also, if it's part of our monetary system in a redeemable way again, there won't be any tax on it. So you want to change that? Take back control. You want to take back control? Have redeemable gold in the system again. That's how we do it. And that's how we do it legally. It's a big battle, but if we get 3%, we can do it. And Ashton Vogler 9515 asks, Lynette, how much constitutional silver should you have? Fundamental value. Well, the fundamental value of silver right now is somewhere in the vicinity of $1,800 an ounce. So let's just say that your What we do is we have it all broken down, like what is best paid with barterable silver, what is best paid with barterable gold. So it's hard to do just a blanket answer, but if you call us, we can tell you what you need, and it will be based on your current cost of living and what your standard of living is, and then how much gold and silver you need to support that, the barterable, and how much cash you need too. How much in gold backs do you need? How much in digital do you need? We'll help you figure all of that out, but there is not a blanket answer. What I can tell you that I've done for myself and my daughters is I have enough barterable silver and barterable gold to cover their standard of living for each one of us 10 years. This is a global issue. This is going to take a while to work through. So I wish I could give you a blanket answer, but it varies from person to person and what they're trying to accomplish. Call us and we will make that happen for you. And Low B8 asks, what is the difference between proof gold and silver with other types of coins? Good question. Okay, so proof, they have these molds and they come down and they strike and then it's pulled back and there you go, you have your coin, right? So proof is like the first run off the press when those dies are super clean and crisp and tight, right? So they're absolutely perfect. And then they're put into a slab so that they maintain that perfection and no human hands has touched it. And there's usually a certain amount of proof that they will do in that run until that press, the edges are just not quite as sharp. So that's why they will then, that's why they'll charge a premium for them, blah, 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 blah. But the reason why I think it's just kind of garbage, it's not garbage, it's just still gold and silver. But a new proof coin, why I don't feel like it's particularly relevant, and I would say that I haven't talked to the wholesalers in a while because that's not my job anymore, but back in the day when I did, this new stuff, here's my American Eagle. This new stuff was never intended to be in circulation. So big flippin' deal that you have them slabbed so that you can charge a premium. But what's the point? There's nothing really special other than they're first off the press. And so a lot of companies will use that as and say, I can charge a premium for it. But when they go to buy it back, maybe that premium will still be there. Maybe it won't. It will move with the spot market. But I don't think it's immune from confiscation because you can hold it inside of an IRA. It has a different classification. But this coin, minted in 1879, was minted with the intention to be in circulation. And this one in particular has sure been in circulation. I mean, you see me, I grab it all the time. I, drop it on the table, whatever. The intention was for it to be used. So when you have something like this, and this is not a proof coin, but this one happens to be a Mint State 63. Now, whenever you see the letters MS, or you hear the terms Mint State, that's what MS means, Mint State, then what that is telling you, that coin never made it into circulation. It was minted, but then it was held in a vault. However, when it's held in a vault like that, they might have thrown the coins in, maybe they were put in a pouch, what have you. They weren't really thinking about keeping them pristine. So the MS means this has never been in circulation, mint state, and the number designation afterwards, somewhere between 60 and 70, tells you the level of blemish, with 60 having the most blemishes and 70 being like a proof coin, being like perfect. I think the highest quality level that I personally own is a Mint State 67. And that's a pretty big deal because these things were created to be used in circulation. So The other types of coin, I mean, that's basically it. That's the difference between the proof gold that they're making now that they'll sell you for a huge premium. I just don't think it's worth the premium because it was never intended to be used in circulation. And Ernest DeBella asks, okay, I got to give you this. Rock and roll hoochie coo, Ernest. Just 5 weeks post-wildfire, wow, that almost took our house. Thank God it did not. We do a lot for fire mitigation up at the bug out. I got there before firemen, grabbed important dog, and valuables. Is there a trusted location to store metals off-site? Yes, there is. We just did, they're in a number of locations, so call us and we'll see what we can do to find the one that's closest to you. The things that you need absolutely 100% in your possession is your barterable and first line of defense. So if you have that, you can have that actually in a pretty small, like grab and go. And also the other thing that I would recommend is make sure that even in your home, it's inside of a fireproof vault, box, safe, something. So that if God forbid, something happened and you couldn't get to it, at least it would be safe. And there are all different ways that you can store it as well, underground. So there are a whole bunch of different ways for that first part. That's what you need near you. The rest of it, if you're executing the rest of the strategy, it's not as necessary. And so, yeah, we can help you with some vaults. There are 2 here in Phoenix. We just did a video at one last week. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I've known them. I found them when I first moved to Arizona, which would have been when my girls were 6 and they're going to be 45, so 39 years ago. So, and the other one I think has been here that long or even longer. But there are different vaults all around the country and all around the world. And we're working on building that vault network for our viewers as well. However, these are all private, which means that you still own the contents of the boxes. I will never recommend to you, I shouldn't say that. It is not likely that I would ever recommend to you that you hold it in a bank safe deposit box, because I think that's just makes it a lot more vulnerable. They close the bank down for a holiday. Well, they might be partying, but you're not, and you won't have access to what you need. So that's like the last part. Ernest, give us a call, because that is part of what we can help you plan. And Dalil Alexander, and wait, I got to do one more for Ernest. To the moon on a Lorna Doone. Because if you know rock and roll hoochie coo, you know this one too. Okay. And Deli Alexander asked, why is the gold prices stagnant? Well, more than likely, it is because you've got a push and a pull that's going on at the same time. Number one, you've got to understand that everything these days is about money flow. So if a lot of money is flowing into, say, ETFs, then that's going to have an impact on the spot price. And if the flow is out of ETFs, then that's also going to have a negative impact on the price. But you also need to remember that 10% above the 200-day moving average on a technical basis is a lot. And while I haven't just checked it just recently, what happens when you're thinking that the gold prices are stagnant? Number one, the spot gold prices are stagnant, right? It's a contract. And what can happen is that it can stay inside of a narrow range, giving that 200-day moving average an opportunity to catch up. So it doesn't mean overvalued, it means it overbought. And a lot of what you were seeing in the paper gold market is a trading market. That's what everything's been about. But we are transitioning from that paper market dictating price action or price discovery, I should say, to the true supply and demand market going to the price discovery. This is not something that happens like that overnight. So it has been in process since I think it started a year ago, last January. So just use this as an opportunity because it's still severely undervalued. Who cares? Do you really want it to go up? I don't. I wish it was still at like 248 on the spot market. That's when I started buying. Don't you wish it was? But a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency. And once you really have integrated that, you make different choices. Because a trillion times zero is still zero. And Ernest DeBella asks, Texas Bullion Redback Source wants a lot of personal data to start account. Silver coins aren't horrible price, but gold coins are sky high and appear to be collectible. Have you looked at these? I have not, but I will now, Ernest. Can you grab that for me, please? Thank you. Are they selling the coin? That's the thing. We don't want the states in the private market. There's way too much government in everything that we do. We don't want them controlling that. So I will absolutely look at that, and we will talk about it. And Nathan Patel 1786 asks, what should be the split for gold? 50% secure storage, 35% at home, and 15% digital gold. I probably would not do 15% digital gold, but it isn't. The split for gold should be based on what you're trying to accomplish. And it's between the barterable, which is quite frankly the smallest portion of my personal portfolio, is the barterable part of the portfolio because I'm just trying to maintain my current standard of living. But having said that, I have become a prepper. And I am an urban farmer, and I have my bug out location. So I'm going to be very conscious about, and I've got my security, or my surety, I should say better, in food, water, energy, security, barterability, which is primarily silver, but not exclusive, wealth protection, which is primarily gold, but not exclusive, community, arguably the most important part, and shelter. So that's really what I'm looking at. 50% secure. It depends. Probably not 35% at home. I mean, honestly, I probably have maybe. This is a guess. You can't hold me to it because I really don't know. I would say that maybe I have 5% at home. And the digital gold, I mean, honest to goodness, it's not a percentage because you're not holding that. That is for liquidity. That's why that's in the first part, to make sure that you can maintain your standard of living. That's what that very first part is all about. That's why it's a combination of cash, maybe a small portion of gold backs, and a small portion of the digital gold. I would say 15. Let us calculate that out, because anything other than actually sitting down and crunching the numbers to understand how you live and what your needs are, and then beyond that, what you're trying to accomplish by converting into undervalued income-producing assets that you cannot outlive, and that can then be transferred to your heirs to put them in a better position so that they're not subject to a full surveillance system. I mean, that's really what it's about. So That's why when you guys ask me about percentages and all of that, that's just not where my brain goes. My brain goes, what am I trying to accomplish? What are my goals? What are my circumstances? What do I have to work with? But it's got to be the goals first. It's got to be. And Miramore asks, I don't understand. Private corporations' debt was erased and turned into fiat that we work for. I did not say that the private corporation debt was erased. It was converted. And that's what kicked off this entire absolutely unconstitutional and frankly quite illegal system. This is not something that just happened. This happened back in 1913 to 14, and they did it very sneakily because constitutionally, only gold and silver are money. And yeah, exactly. No, you don't understand. And that's not on you. That's the design. Because if you do understand, you go, what? No, I'm not working for corporate debt. But yes, according to the Federal Reserve, if you can kind of hold on for just a minute, because I think that by the time that Kelly finishes redoing that chart in a way that I can roll it out and help you see it better than what I threw up there for you to see right now, it's never going to make any logical sense. Why would you agree to work for someone else's debt? But what is money? It goes down to the basics. And by the way, we do have all of those basic key things that I've already recorded to help you understand it. But what is money? It's supposed to perform 4 key functions. It's supposed to be a tool of measure so you can price stuff, a tool of barter so you can exchange. If you give me this, then I'll give you that. A short-term store of value to make sure that you are fairly paid for your labor today, and a long-term store of value so that no matter when you use this money, you are always fairly paid for the original labor that created it. What a concept. And since with gold and silver, it requires labor and energy, you are trading labor for labor. That is a very fair and reasonable system. And because of all of the demand, they cannot inflate it away. But if they raise taxes on the gold standard, you knew about it and you didn't like it and you might fight it. So going on the fiat money standard, which is a stated value by a government, and yep, as I showed you, but I will show it to you better because I know that that's a tough chart. That's why that was like, oh, Kelly's here. Oh, good. Now we can make this more clear, and we will. So if you can just hold on to that for just a minute, I'm pretty sure that should be done by the time I get back. And I'm telling you right now, I'm chomping at the bit to show you that. So can I turn an elephant into a butterfly by convincing you it is one? Well, maybe. Maybe you can. Another piece I have on there is about how entities, government agencies, corporations are using artificial intelligence. And, you know, it's kind of interesting that I was watching this commercial the other day, and you guys might have seen it. I don't even remember the name of the company, but they were all holding bananas, although I think they create like a taser, something like that. And I glanced at it because I'm typically working when I have that on, and I glanced up and I went, wait a minute, what? And I watched this commercial, and I'm like, this just seems a bit off to me. So I actually did use AI, and I went in and I said, is this commercial AI or is it real people? And they, oh, yes, you know how they do that. The AI will say, oh, you're so smart, you recognize, blah, blah, blah. Those lines are very blurred, and they are getting more and more blurred. Mimi came in and was telling us a story about how her parents would send her something and she'd look at it and she'd go, that's AI, right? No, people don't realize that. So I do have that slated. It hasn't risen to the top yet, but that is definitely something that I want to talk about. And your last point on that, not one citizen would say, okay, pull out, do you have a bill in your wallet, any of you? Pull it out, take a look at it, because that's exactly what this says. Federal Reserve is a private corporation, and a note is a debt instrument. Now, this does not charge you interest. It charges you inflation, but it doesn't charge you interest and it doesn't pay you interest. In the digital system, yeah, they can change that. And what have they talked about? These are their words. I mean, central bank words, not mine. Once we are fully in a digital system, there will be no limitations to how low we can push interest rates, which means negative rates. And you might recall that they tested that from 2009 up until 2022-ish? Didn't work. But hey, let's double down on that. Why? Because there's officially virtually no purchasing power left in the currency. So what do they have to do? They have to attack principal. And that's exactly what negative rates do. Yeah, we are saying okay to it, but it's because we don't know it. But now you do. So if you think that that's not okay with you, Citizens for Sound Money. Let's take our power back. Because it's not okay with me. And I'm glad it's not okay with you. And EC 5957, Zang International, good afternoon from New York City. Love your silverware with the coins inside of it. Thank you very much. There's all sorts of stuff here. Yeah, I mean, just understand, gold and silver in any form, in any condition, doesn't really matter. It's all monetary at its base. And EC 5957 also asks, what gives the coin shop online dealers the right to charge me spot plus premium? Also tired of fellow stackers getting lowballed, being given less for what their metals are worth. Many times I've heard people have been scammed in a time of need by coin shops, pawn shops, SMH. Yes. So, okay, number one, understand that only smelters can buy it below spot, right? I can't even buy it at spot. So there's demand and supply, and that's part of what we're looking at here. And the more that demand grows, so what happens if they're controlled by the spot markets, but there is a premium in the physical markets in order to get the physical, like we saw the backwardation, right? You had to pay more for what you could get your hands on now than what you had in the future. Those are all contracts. But in the real world, when we're buying gold and silver, we're buying them from wholesalers. And wholesalers are out there buying them from wherever the marketplace is going to bear. And in order to stay in business and be here for you, we have to make money or we can't stay in business. So the difference, I think, between Zang International and everybody else is we're going to earn it. And you're sitting here. This is one way, only one way that we do earn it. Also having a very strong strategy and plan. That's what I don't know that this is necessarily true. But quite honestly, I don't know of any other company that has a thought out strategy that is based upon history. They may say it, but you guys ask me specifics all the time. And I'm happy to, if I can give you a specific percentage, we don't work that way, so I can't really say that. But I give you specifics all the time and will continue to do so. So do understand that companies do have to charge a markup in order to stay in business. Just like when you go to the grocery store, you're not getting the apples exactly at what the store had to charge for the apples. They have to put something in there. But now going back to the next part, stackers getting lowballed, being given less for what their metals are worth, then you need to work with a company like us, because we don't just have one wholesaler, we have several wholesalers. So that gives us the ability to hold their toes to the fire. So you're always in at the market and you're also always out at the market. And that's also one of the reasons why what we have is a very layered approach that depends on what you're trying to accomplish. This is my savings, just a raw ounce of gold. That's my emergency savings, so that if I need to liquidate something immediately, this is what I'm liquidating. I'm not liquidating this. This has a different function for me. So it's built in layers so that wherever you are in this trend cycle, you are covered. If you need short-term emergency, you've got something without a big premium in it. And then you have the time to allow the market to catch up with you. It's kind of the fundamental value kind of gives you the eye to see where it's going. I can't guarantee exactly when it's going to get there because of all of the paper and digital products that have been made to control that. The spot market was openly stated to be created to manage how the public viewed gold and silver. Yeah. So that you're still willing to work for corporate debt and you don't realize that you're working for corporate debt. Because to your earlier point, if one person, if somebody really gets that, then they go, no, that's not okay with me. So work with somebody that you have that relationship with, and that, like everything we do is standardized. So we're not going to pick and choose, and we're not going to lowball because somebody's in a bad circumstance. It's none of that. And that's also the layered approach. It really is. And it's a strategy so that you don't have to touch it, that you don't have to touch, what's really, it's layered. You'd have cash first, then you'd have stuff like this, then you'll level up like this, etc. But create a relationship with Zang International or someone like Zang International, which probably doesn't quite exist, but maybe. I mean, that's just me being proud of us. Make sure that you have a relationship established, because if you go into someplace randomly, and look at what's happening now, because the spot price of silver has risen so much that a lot of people rush to liquidate, silly them, rush to liquidate, and that overwhelmed the storekeepers and the smelters' ability to buy it back because they have too narrow a market. So you need somebody with a broader market, somebody that has enough relationships out there so that nobody's being held, everybody's being held their toes to the fire. Oops, what's happening?
All good.
All good, okay. Okay, well, it's live. Things happen when things are live. Yeah, I mean, that's what I can say about that. But Clint Lee 6509 asks, hi, would you recommend to diversify in foreign currency, including gold and silver coins? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it depends on where you are in the world, and it also depends on where you might be going in the world. So that is, if you're a global citizen, I know people that, especially after the nomad capitalist, I sure have met a lot of people that live in a number of different places. I mean, my good friend Francis Hunt, I adore him. He lives in 4 very different continents, and so he's got what he needs in each one of those places. So I do believe in diversification. Now, if you're talking about diversifying in foreign currency and you live in the U.S. and you have no intention or plan of going to that foreign currency, well, then that's just the same as dollars. It's not relevant. But having foreign coins, which I don't happen to have in here, having said that, Yeah, I like foreign gold coins. Pre-1948, sovereigns, Swiss francs, etc. I like those very much, and that makes a lot of sense. But again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I like that kind of stuff for, say, property taxes, maybe some chronic illness things like that. And Holly Silver, M8K, Zang International, do you think the Fed will lower rates to zero? Oh, yes. I most definitely do. And I think we'll even see negative rates. So, yep. Look, they'll do whatever they need to do because we're headed into a huge crisis. I just finished, and I think they'll be coming out while I'm gone, which is pretty soon. I just finished a series I'm super proud of. I'm so proud of it. It's called The 5 Doom Loops of a Financial Crisis, and I break down each doom loop. And you go in and you watch this series and see if it isn't showing you where we are in this trend cycle right this very second. Just keep in mind, which I didn't put in there, but I did make a note for myself to do it because I should have said the 6th. And the 6th one are the opportunities that present. And I will be doing that when I get back. But do not miss that series. I've knocked myself out on it. I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud on how it's being, edited and put together on that end. And I think you guys are going to get a lot out of it. I wanted to make sure that while I was gone, you guys had something really, really good to sink your teeth into. And jot down those questions that you're watching this stuff, and then let's talk about it either while I'm away at the lives or after I get back. And Roddy Scott 6995 asks, is the Iranian central bank under their control as well? Do you think Iran part of the gig and the war just a controlled way to ensure hyperinflation followed with climate fuel lockdowns? Well, let us not forget internet lockdowns, because there are many people that think that the internet is beyond governments, and I don't know why, because they've shown us so many times. No, it's not. I don't think that there's one absolute puppet master that controls absolutely everything. I think that Iran is kind of a dangerous actor, and certainly, there have been a number of countries around the world that have developed all sorts of different ways to control their population. But I can tell you this, that it is used as a distraction. So you're looking over here rather than looking at what they're doing back here with the money supply. And I think this isn't going to end well, and I don't think it's going to be short-lived. And even if the Straits of Hormuz were open today, we have not felt the full impact of the destruction that's already taken place and what it will take to get everything back online and up and going. And I will tell you, I happen to have personally, I have a hybrid, and I'm glad I have a hybrid. Because if I'm just staying local, I'm not using any gas. But if I'm going further than that, this is not my first rodeo. I was there in the 70s and the 80s, and I remember, it even days. If your license plate had an even number, you could go get gas on Tuesdays. If it had an odd number, you could go get gas on Wednesdays. I remember that very well, very well. Energy kicks things off every time. War kicks things off, justifies the inflation every time. Yeah, this is not good. I can't say whether or not. And Mona is asking, because it's right in line with this, I heard we'll have to pay Iran trillions to get out of this war for infrastructure bombed and toll tax for Hormuz. Is this true? God, I would imagine it's probably even higher than that. The toll monetarily, the toll emotionally, and the hyperinflation to follow. And yeah, I mean, if their infrastructure is completely bombed out and we need oil, who do you think is going to reach in their taxpayer wallets and pull out the fiat money or just kind of print their way out of it? Yeah, this is not pretty, and be prepared for very rapid inflation. And that, I believe, and we'll see, I could be right or I could be wrong, I don't know. But history tells me that rapid inflation is going to be enough to push that confidence, the public confidence, below that line. We're close. I can't tell you exactly when, but we're close. That I can tell you. And Big Dane 11, truckers are definitely feeling it. Yeah, I mean, you saw prices at the pump went like this. Farmers are feeling it. Look at fertilizer. I'm telling you, we went through this in 2020. And I remember at that point in time walking through my gardens and going, oh, look at this. Look at how smart I am. Because, you know, maybe I couldn't get avocados, but I didn't have any problems. I had eggs, I had chicken, I had fruits, vegetables, and I had fertilizer. Why did I have fertilizer? Because I converted my 75,000 gallon swimming pool into a pond. And I put in, I did this in 2013, 1, 2, 3, is that all? Well, I don't really consider that a pond. So I guess I have 3 ponds on my property, keeping in mind that I am in Arizona in the middle of a drought in the desert. So water catchment is very, very important to me, right? Food, water, can't live without either one of those. And the fish that I have those ponds stocked with, well, one is tilapia, another is crawfish, another is koi. And guess what I have? Fertilizer. That's exactly what I need for my gardens to grow. And now you're seeing fertilizer plants that are having to shut down. This is not good. This is going to impact every single area. In fact, I did a slide and then I pulled it out on all the different areas that are impacted by what's happening in the oil fields. And zero games ends. Thanks for answering my question, Lynette. It is my pleasure. It's why I'm here. I don't know if you realize, but young people are waking up. I do, and I'm very happy about that. I am 25, and listening to people like you have opened my eyes. Thank you so much. What you are saying is so critically important. And please join Citizens for Sound Money. Let's do this together, because you're the one that's going to create the real revolution. I can guide you from my experience because I've lived so long, but at the end of the day, you know, you are the ones that have grown up with all of this technology, which is making it easier for them to make this transition. And yes, I do know that the younger people are waking up, and I can't even begin to tell you how happy that makes me. Really. And GiaQI.01, hi Lynette, do you know how Simon Dixon, apart from his opinion on Bitcoin, what do you think of his insight? In short, he believes the MIC and FIC are behind the whole theatrics. You know, I'm not really familiar with Simon Dixon. I'll write his name down and take a look. But one thing I've learned over all the years that I've been doing this is that there is always a foundation of truth in whatever, people want to think of as, theory. And a lot of times what ends up happening is people realize that's true. But I don't know who Simon Dixon is. I will take a look and see. It doesn't matter, though. If he is behind, if he believes in a conspiracy theory, I can't tell you that it's wrong, or I can't tell you that it's right. I'll give you my opinion on it. But here's the reality. The currency, the fiat money system died in 2008. and they have rushed to put a new system together. Bitcoin's a Trojan horse. Why does this physical representation of a Bitcoin, why does that look like this? Because they want you to think that this is just like this. It's not. It's used in one place. It's a Trojan horse to get you used to it. And Prayer Warrior 424, so lucky to have you, and I'm lucky to have you guys too, for sure. Is it better to purchase poor quality 1932 coins to be safe and low premium? Is there more benefit to buying the 18 to 1900 collectible coins? It just depends, because it works like this. Let's say we go to an auction and there are 10 people at this auction, and on the table there's 10 ounces of bullion. It's just a new American Eagle. Well, wherever the bidding opens up, all 10 people want it. Okay, they can each get it at that price. But then you have one more rare coin and everybody wants it, but whoever's willing to pay the most for it gets it. But then you still have those 9 people that want it. And so that's what drives the price performance up even more, which I've shown you. And that's why I sit here and say, depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So there, again, for this, there's no blanket answer. For your absolute emergency savings, yes, I love poor quality. This is just my raw lib. That's all. Nothing special about it other than it was minted in 1879. And so it has that protection above it. But this is, all right, you know, you really can do anything with any physical gold or any physical silver as long as you can keep it through the whole trend cycle. It's just that, can I buy a building with silver? Yes. How much silver would I need to buy that building? A tremendous amount. It'd be so hard for me to move all of that silver to buy that building. Whereas I can do it with this one, not this particular coin because it's not that great a quality, but I can do it with one coin. So it's the right tool for the job. And that's kind of what I'm saying here. And that's why the first thing you start with are your goals. You don't start with, well, let's get a bunch of this and let's get a bunch of that. I mean, you got to do what you're comfortable with, regardless of what anybody says. But what if you had a plan and you said, well, okay, like, for example, I'm running a business. I have a lot of people that are depending upon their paychecks. So I had to make sure that no matter what happened, I could always meet that. So for me, this is my emergency money because I wouldn't, if I needed to, I wouldn't hesitate for a minute. It's a layer. Having said that, personally, one of my goals, as I've told you before, is to build out my dynastic wealth base. Because for me personally, not everybody feels this way, nor do they have to, but for me personally, leaving a legacy for my family is very, very important. It's just something I always wanted to do. And therefore, in my personal strategy, I'm looking for those entry points in a variety of different ways to generate income. And when I see that cup formation, then I will convert some of these into some of those. Dynastic wealth is wealth that lasts in families at least 300 years. Minimum. So the King of England, that's always a great example because it's very visible. And what do they have? They have real estate, they have rare collectibles, really rare collectibles, and they have gold. And frankly, I mean, you're looking at this little array on the table, but this would be in that category. And guess what? This is sterling silver. I bought this in a pile of junk silver. I don't even think I paid spot for it. and I bought it through an auction. And look at it. When I opened up that box and I found this, I think this is like, actually, I don't know what the date on this is. It's maybe early 1800s. So there are all different ways that you can do it. And I don't think you're at risk with this any more than you're at risk with this. It's just this accomplishes one thing, this accomplishes another thing. So be diversified. I guess that's the best way to say it. Be diversified. And we can help you understand what supports what you're trying to do. And EC 5957 says, JP Morgan does not want you to own silver. JP Morgan does not want you to own anything. They want to own and control everything so that they can charge you. And this is not just JP Morgan. This is the look at how ginormous these corporations are, larger than countries. They generate income that flows through their economies or through their corporations at a higher level than almost all economies. They are the ones that are ruling, and they have very, very, very deep pockets. And they want to own the World Economic Forum. By 2030, you will own nothing. And they also say you will be happy. You will not be happy when that's the case. And I think we've all been experiencing how everything is a subscription. Well, yeah. Sounds like feudal times to me. And Charles KM8QN asks, could it be Operation Sandman is in effect? No more oil trading and useless T-bills, silver, or yuan works? We will find out. We could not be living through a more interesting period of time. So let's make a difference with it. How about we do something outrageous and we get redeemable gold back in the system again? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? And they would be, wow, it would be one for the history books. We would go down in history. And I know we can do this. Let's have a revolution and make sound money part of the system again. Yeah. It could be, but either way, we're going to feel the impact. We do feel the impact already. And Arcola 107 asks, would greatly appreciate a deep dive on what the overnight resets will look like in the USA. Just can't wrap my mind around day two reality would look like in the chaos. Many thanks. I think that would probably go right along. When you send me that, I think that could go right along with how to use your gold and silver after that, when things get real local. Okay, I will do a deep dive on that. Holy Moly 271 says, what does she mean by can be confiscated? Because it can be held inside of 401. Okay, what I mean is the government can say, we're taking your gold. So if you're holding it, you've got a 401. I'm thinking you're talking about the retirement plans because of IRAs, because it would be the administrator that is holding your gold or silver. And if you can do gold and silver in a 401k, it's probably an administrator that's holding it, which means it is not in your physical possession. And in this country, in the US, though they haven't always labeled it that way, but and I know it keeps growing, doesn't it? And the more research I do, I'm constantly learning. That's why I could do this for so long. It's so interesting because I'm constantly learning stuff. But in the US, there have been 7 either covert or overt confiscations. 7. Not 0, not 1, 7. Inflation is a form of confiscation. That's one. But when Nixon disallowed foreign governments whose gold we were holding, and actually if you hold on to that, because this chart that I want to do like a whole deep dive on that Kelly's working on, I cannot wait to explain this chart to you. And when I tried to put everything on there, which I did, I know Josh, you went, whoa. So we have to have this broken down professionally so you can see it. But confiscation means that the government can, in one way or another, even that 28% taxable event, that's all a form of confiscation. They just don't use that term so that you don't realize what they're doing. But inflation, I did a bunch of series on all the different ways that they confiscate. So yeah, that's what I mean. I mean that if you hold it inside of an IRA or a 401k, it is held at an administrator, which makes it quite easy should our government say, yep, we need all the gold. The administrator's not going to go, oh no, wait, we have to protect our clients. If the government says you got to turn in the gold, they're going to turn in the gold. And then you'll be left with a whole bunch of this that they're about to devalue. And by the way, the confiscation, and when you look at the doom loops, I also identify the area and the timing of when that confiscation is most likely to occur. Understand, I can't give you guarantees because that is beyond my control. But I can show you, based on historic norms, what is most likely to happen next. So you'll see some of that in the doom loops. I think that kicks in. I think that was the third or the fourth doom loop, the confiscation, when confiscation is most probable. I want to say fourth, but you want to watch the whole series anyway. I think it's the best work that I've done to date. And how do we figure out what the fundamental value for a gold coin is? That's awesome. It's not necessarily the coin, but you do it to the ounce. And it's really very simple. And actually, I can probably pull up the formula. Can you hand me that? I'll show you. Because it's easier if I show you and tell you at the same time. And anybody can do this. And I'm not trying to get you to the very penny, because we don't know what that cover ratio is going to be, but I can absolutely get you really, really close. So bear with me here for just 1 second. And let's see. I know when I did that. Okay. Okay. I think I pulled the wrong one. I did. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, this is the one I was looking for. Okie dokie. I'll tell you when I'm ready. I'm almost ready. Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. Okie doke. I'm ready. All right. So this is, it's not showing up. Wait a minute. It's not showing up. Okay, Josh is going to troubleshoot it. But, so I can start talking about it, and then when he gets the numbers and gets everything set up for you. All right, so this is fiat money. This is sound money. They are both money. They are just the flip side of the coin. So in order to understand in terms of dollars what this is worth, then you have to understand how much of this has been created. And the way that we know that is by a proxy. We can use debt as a proxy for how much fiat money, currency, has been created. For some reason, we're having a challenge with that, but so I'll just keep talking. So according to the IFF, the last time I checked it, there was, and don't hold me to this because here we go. All right, actually, you can probably keep it there and I'll just, yep, there we go. So according to the IIF, the global debt stands at $324 trillion. So you can use that as a proxy for that's how much money was created. We aren't talking about derivative bets. We're not talking about anything else, just the level of debt globally that was created. Now, there's an unlimited amount of debt, right? Because they can keep doing this as long as they want to. Even if there are no buyers for it, what are the Fed doing? They're buying the debt back, right? But with gold, there's a finite amount. So the most current calculations on this, you can see how many ounces of gold actually exist. So in order to get the fundamental value of an ounce of gold, you just take all of the debt that's been created and you divide it by all of the gold that exists. The form of it doesn't matter because gold is indestructible. And that gives you a number, okay, I was off a bit, $36,000. That is the current fundamental value on a global basis of 1 ounce of gold if they were to do that overnight revaluation, that overnight reset today. Now, it'd probably be higher than that because, again, there's all of these derivatives, all of these big bets that are made against all of this debt and the credit quality, et cetera. Just in the FDIC insured banks recently, what did the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency say that it was? It's close to $7 quadrillion in contract value. So a huge collapse, this would be chump change, the 36,000. Now, on the other side of that, why does it keep going back and forth? Okay, I mean, I'm not sure what the viewers are seeing right now. It's stable. Now, looking at the gold to silver ratio at a 20-to-1 ratio, which is what it was in the beginning, right? It was this 20th of an ounce of gold to this $1 silver coin, this 1 ounce of silver. That puts the fundamental value of silver at a bit over $1,800. The more money printing they do, the more of this they do, the higher those numbers go and the less that you can buy with all of this stuff that's out there. So that's how you do it. And it's pretty simple. Now, look, when it comes to the cover ratio, in other words, what are they going to do? What is that ratio going to be? Usually it's 1,000 to 1. That would be on average, but nobody really knows what it is. And so what that means is that when you go to bed at night, if you have $1,000 in your bank account, when you wake up in the morning, you would have 1. Stock markets will react that quickly. Everything but actually the 2 spot markets, gold and silver, those typically on average, I can't guarantee this, but I can tell you that on average, they hang up at those loftier levels for about 9 months. So that's the first execution of the exit strategy that we're going to be working on, right? But we have everything mapped out. Honest to God, that is what makes us different than anybody else. Anybody can tell you that they have a strategy, but nobody has me. And I'm sorry. I mean, I've been groomed for this moment in time, and I've been studying this stuff. I do not see anything. Why does it keep going back and forth?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Is that impacting people?
It's not, no.
Oh, okay. Well, that's my concern. If it's not impacting people, then I'm good with it. But that's how you get the fundamental value of gold, and why you see when they do those overnight resets, which I will do a whole piece on that. I will do a whole piece on that. But when you see these overnight resets, you see them go up like 3,500% because they have suppressed. You guys are going to see this for the first time, really, in a good way. I finally figured out how to do this. But you see a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency because gold is the primary currency metal. And so they suppress because just like they don't want you understanding that you're working for corporate debt, they don't want you to understand that the true value of gold. That's the best one I've ever done, because when you remove your hand from that suppression, like we've recently seen, it's not fully removed yet, but you saw gold and spot silver go up like this, right? Now it's kind of hanging out and people are going, no, we want it to keep going up like that. It'll happen, but you want to accumulate it before that actually happens. So that's how you get it. And that's what we're watching. And Gia QE01 asks, do you think your team can help those outside of the U.S. with your strategy for the mortgage with pre-33s and for the strategy exit and other convert confiscation, etc. we have in the EU? 100%. This is something that we've been working on, and I've been asked this so many times. And so the answer is yes, we can. We can help. We're not quite ready to roll it out, but some people are already executing it. So if you call us, yes, we can help. And MJH1949 asks, speaking about 28% capital gains, isn't your liquidation commission also 28%? No, it is not. And it depends on what you're buying, right? But if you're talking about the collectible coins, you are paying the fees on the way in. You get 100% on the wholesale bid on the way out. And so what are the steps to liquidate your metals? Okay, if you have bought them from us, it makes it a lot faster and easier, but that was one of the things that I made sure of when we started Zang International, was that no matter who brought their metals to us, we could liquidate. So what you're going to do, if you bought them from us, you're going to give us a call, you're going to tell us what's going on, or we're going to call you and say it's time to execute this part of the strategy. Either way, if we know a liquidation is going to have happen, then we can prepare for it. Our wholesalers know the coins because that's where we got them from. So it's easy to get a bid, and the process, you ship it back to us, registered and insured. Pack everything under camera. Just, that's easy enough to do with the cameras today. So you pack it up. We'll tell you what to insure it for. You will ship it in. That usually takes about 3 days. Then as soon as we get it, and we'll give you an indication bid beforehand. So for those that did not buy the coins from us, we'll give you an indication bid assuming what these coins are. But the process is going to take a little bit longer. Then you send in the coins and we can liquidate, and then we can wire the funds in. So it can happen. Don't hold me to this. When we have Emerald on here, this is a better question for her because she's the VP of operations. And so this is her area. But that process can take from start to finish if everybody does everything in a timely fashion, maybe 4 days-ish. Okay, something like that. If you did not buy the coins from us, then once we have them, we will send them to the wholesaler for review. And then they'll say, oh, okay, this is a whatever, and we confirm the bid. You are locked into nothing until you go into trading and you lock everything in. But you can change your mind at any point, et cetera, et cetera. So if you did buy the coins from somebody else, we're going to encourage you to get a bid from them too. And if you get the bid from us and you get the bid from them and you're doing it in, a timely fashion, you're going to know who to liquidate them through. Let's see. What are all the fees? Shipping? Do you advise when it's time? Yes. And if so, how? Okay, if you are executing the strategy for us, it is critically important that everything is timed appropriately. And so the way that we've set up our database, because our job on the way out is to get as much for you as possible. And so we have more than, I guess what I'm trying to say is we have several different avenues. Now, right now, putting together a string, there's no premium on that. But there is no fever like gold fever. Historically, when you've put together a string, then there have been a period of time where you get a 30% premium above the market price for that. Whether or not that's going to happen again, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that even if you personally are not sitting on a string, the way that we've structured it is we could put the strings together, this client and that client. And then we put that string together to capture that. So when it is time to exit, whether that's for a mortgage purpose or whether that's to convert into income producing assets or I guess anything, well, no, you're going to know if you need to liquidate and it's not one of those times. But if you're executing our strategy, yes, we will be informing you right along and prepping you because everything's going to have to happen like clockwork, which is why it's not awful on the execution of the strategy to hold it near us in a private vault. So there's more about that, but I'm going to say call us, talk to the strategy specialists about it. But yeah, we will advise you when it's time to liquidate. But I do also want you to understand that in my personal strong feelings, 100% of the time you need a foundation of sound money. The level to your total portfolio that should be and the kind that it should be is going to vary based upon what's going on in the trend cycle. So right now, I don't own any stocks. Well, that has not always been true. I'm an ex-stockbroker. I have a high level of comfort with that stuff. But I also understand what's going on at a high level, and that's why I don't own any right now. You do whatever you're comfortable with. There will come a time where I can see myself owning stocks again. Dividend paying stocks, I don't know about growth, maybe some growth stocks too. It kind of depends. But right now, I do not own any cryptocurrencies. Can I see myself owning cryptocurrencies in the future? Sure I can, when I know who will survive. But in either one of those cases, would I ever convert all of my gold and silver to those? No, I would not. I would always want to make sure that I have a properly diversified and balanced portfolio. Fiat assets protected by hard assets, tangible assets, sound money. So I don't know if I answered all of that, but that was a pretty meaty question. It was a great question. And, call and get yourself set up with the strategy specialist. We talk all the time. I see them every week. And, they know where I live. Every single one of them does. They're here frequently. And Gia QI01. If we intend to buy during the revaluation an organic seed network seller in France, which is being attacked for years for royalty-free seed, is this a good and safe idea? What would you recommend? Okay, let me read that again. If we intend to buy during the revaluation, so if you're going to buy organic seeds through a seller in France, and I'm making an assumption, so correct me if I'm wrong, you don't live in France, so you're buying it, let's say you live in the US or you live in Australia, and you're buying the seeds from France, which is being attacked for years of royalty-free seed. Well, first of all, is this a good and safe idea? I think things get very, very local. And there are seed banks. Morgan has shown me them, will be showing them to you. But there are organic seed banks that don't have all of the garbage that the big pharma puts into it, because we know big pharma controls what? I don't know what percentage that is, but a huge percentage of seeds. So you definitely need to be part of an organic seed network that doesn't have the, glycogen or the crap that's in the seeds, because they won't reproduce. But the other thing that you should be doing if you're gardening is saving back your seeds, so that you're actually propagating and you don't need to go out and buy seeds from anybody. You actually have them. And my sister, Beth Ellen, whom you're going to meet at some point in the pretty near future, and she's been gardening since the 70s. She's definitely a master gardener. She knows what she's doing. You'll meet her. And she told me, you save the first one, you save the best one, and you save the last one. And you use those seeds to repopulate. So I think it's going to be hard during hyperinflation. I think I can see some challenges with that. I know that we do buy seeds, but I also know that we save back a lot of seeds, and we'll be doing more work on that we'll make available to you. And KLinar 8003 asks, pay attention to her mantra, people. You know, how did I develop the mantra? 2008 happened. And I watched it, and I went, oh crap, I didn't think I would really see this. The system died. There was not at that moment, and there's nothing that's changed my mind. It's just reinforced it. We have to become as independent and self-sufficient as possible. I was living in a little 2-bedroom condo getting ready to retire. And then 2008 happened. No more retirement for me. I don't think I'm ever going to stop. I mean, as long as I can talk, and I guess I can, and think, I can do this. So I do a lot for that. But instead of that little 2-bedroom condo, I turned around, and this is not very big. A lot of you, some of you out there may have actually even been on here, my property, and you see it's a half an acre in dead central Phoenix. This is absolutely an urban farm. And, you know, I sat there and I went, okay, where do I feel the most vulnerable? And where I felt the most vulnerable was my ability to feed my family, so food. And so that's when I started becoming an urban farmer. You know, $1 million tomatoes, probably, dug up the yard and everything. And was it Ray Dalio? I don't know. Somebody, I just saw a headline, and I grabbed it, so I'll pull up the article and read it later. But it said something about the impact on world hunger because of the spike in the oil prices. And food is the single biggest issue for most people. But the mantra was developed by going, where do I feel the most vulnerable? And then going in and doing something about it. I don't have to do everything about it, but at least get started and do something. And so I did the raised beds in the back first, and I started learning how to plant food and fix the soil and do irrigation and all of that. And back in that day, it was just me. Just me. And I'd get up early in the morning, put on my headlamp, and out in the gardens I'd go. And when I'd get back from work at night, on went the headlamp, and out in the gardens I'd go, you know, which is why I'm very happy to let somebody else do that now. But then security. I have a back door. This is an old house. I could see where anybody could walk up to that door, boom, and just push it right in. So that was after I started with the food, because I'd already been doing the gold and silver, right? So let's make that clear, because that I started in earnest in 2002. But the security, that was the next area that I just felt really vulnerable. So I just did that door, right? And then I went on. So that's how you do it. And that's how the mantra developed. I just said, what do I need for myself to sustain not just my standard of living, but my children's, my siblings, etc. First, it started out, I just wanted to feed 20 people. If I could, I'd feed the world, if I could. So, yeah, pay attention to the mantra, get it done, but come together in community. I had the luxury of time, foresight, and I could afford it. You know, I couldn't put it all together right now with the time we have left, but you can if you come together in community. So, Forbidden Planet 7777 asks, Lynette, do you recommend people press their own comics or pay somebody else to? I know if I get into it, I will do cheapo stuff first till I perfect the technique. I'm not really sure why you're asking me that. Press their own comics. So if you create comics, I would say, and that, I don't know how to answer your question, Forbidden Planet. I'm sorry. If you could ask it another way, because I don't do anything with comics. Well, that's not entirely true. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. And Hio Silver, M8K at Zang International, what do you think the gold to silver ratio will get to? You know, it really wouldn't surprise me to see it get back to a 20-to-1 or something like that ratio. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. Historically, when you go into a hyperinflationary event, that gold-silver ratio does get more and more and more and more narrow until the hyperinflation fully kicks in, and then that gap widens. What silver 100% does is it maintains your ability to buy that food. That's why, for me, it's the primary tool of barter. Not the only tool of barter, but the primary tool of barter, because it does absolutely 100% maintain your ability to feed yourself. But as that grows that grows wider again, it's the gold as the primary currency metal. That's against which everything else is judged. And that gap widens again. So historically, gold always outperforms. A lot of times when people are thinking about that ratio, you're thinking, whoa, okay, well, so let gold and silver, because silver, you know, to the fundamental value, silver is so much further away, which means, woo, I can get all of those gains in terms of what? This buys you nothing. You've seen my $10 trillion Zimbabwe note. No, this has this is Iranian rial, 10,000 Iranian rial. I don't think this will buy me anything now either. But are you going to sell your silver when the ratio gets narrow again? Because to me, that's a trade. And for me, gold and silver are not a trade. They are about functionality. They are about wealth insurance. They are about freedom and stability and taking our power back. So that's what I think will more than likely happen. And I'll show you, well, yeah, I could do it. I could do it even from, I could even do it from wherever I am. So I'll make sure and do that again for next time. But understand, I'm doing it for you because I don't need to do it for me, but I'm doing it for you because I want you to make educated choices. And you can. It's perfectly good. If you look at things differently than I do, that's what makes everything a lot more rich. That's why I like everybody to come in. You disagree with me, agree with me. I'm going to love you and support your rights anyway. It doesn't matter. We are a community, not a cult. And Kaylin R8003, what are we calling digital gold? Bitcoin? No, that's what they want you to think of. Bitcoin is digital gold, but the digital gold are those credit cards that actually have your gold deposited in there so that when you use that MasterCard like Glint or Kinesis, when you use that card, that MasterCard, you're actually spending your gold. That's digital gold. Having said that, the reason why you hear me say like Glint or Kinesis is because those are two card companies that I know that if you say, I want my gold back, that they will ship you the gold. They have different terms, and I've done the comparisons, and you have that. Didn't I do that last week? I think I put that back up, the comparison between Glint and Kinesis. I think that was last week. But I do that all the time. It's pretty easy to see because they have different terms. But when I'm thinking digital gold, no, I'm not thinking Bitcoin. That's what they want you to think. I'm thinking of Glint or Kinesis, where you can spend it. That's why that's in that first liquid part, because a credit card is easier to spend than taking physical gold in. So that's what I mean by digital gold. And Sunny Bookman from Facebook asks, how many people are pretending to be part of the legal society? Probably almost everyone. Probably almost everyone. Especially I would say people in government are pretending huge. And tale of the unexpected. How long do you think it will be before the paper contracts flip to physical prices, true value of silver? I've not lived through this before. It was much faster when they took it away than when they gave it to us. But there is that big battle between, China, the Shanghai Exchange, the BRICS, and the U.S., and that's falling apart. And, I believe it was Ernest Hemingway when somebody asked him how he went bankrupt, and he said, slowly at fast, then very fast. And I would say the same thing when this flip happens. I think that there are a lot of things that we are not seeing yet. But there are also a lot of indications regularly, constantly, that tell us that shift is happening. Faster with the confidence, with that loss of confidence. Much faster with that loss of confidence. We're in March now. I could be wrong. You can't hold me to this. Timing is the biggest challenge of any technician. But I would say that transition would be complete within 2 years. I might be right and I might be wrong, but it's already happening. So I think that it'll happen under the radar, and then bam, I think that when the BRICS or when China's ready, it'll happen very quickly because I think they can force it. And EJ Walsh 877 asks, I trust the coin and spot dealers more than the banks and governments. Me too. No coin dealer could ever be responsible for almost crashing the global economy or operating in trillions in risky derivatives. Such a good point. Such a good point. Thank you for that. I agree. I'm right there with you. And Zero Games Ends. Every time I go to the bank to claim my order, 90% of the tellers don't even know the protocols of precious metal claims. We've all been trained away from it, and there is a reason. Why would they not say, okay, let's put gold back in the system again? Because then they're giving up a lot of their control and the ability to inflate things away. That's why we can't sit back and say, oh, okay, well, we trust you in this new system to have our best interest at heart, because it just is not so. That's why we have to come together in global community and demand it. And Anna Wilcox from Facebook asks, is that a teapot, hun? Yes, that is absolutely a teapot. Oops. It is. And it's gorgeous. I wish you could really, I don't know if this does it justice, but yeah, I got this in a bunch of scrap silver. And do you know when I bought this was in 2020 because clients always come first, right? And that is true. So when I couldn't buy the coins, I bought this. That's when I bought it. I was very happy I did. I have a whole bunch. It's not as nice as this. This is definitely the nicest stuff that came out of there. But actually, there is even a Tiffany, sterling silver Tiffany letter opener in there. I was good with that. That was a great box. I had fun with that. And EC5957 asks, the Amish have mastered the art of living off-grid, off the land. Yes, they have. And we're all going to have to learn that lesson again. They want us dependent on them, then we have no choice. If everything you have is in the system, and they say jump, you're going to have to say how high. That's why community, local, as well as global, got to get it done. And Verliance, 1792 Coinage Act says silver dollars are the only real dollars. And Interior Exterior Painting Ltd, Lynette, you used to say the fundamental value of gold was 45, then 40, then 38, then 36. All the while the debt has been rising. How is that possible? Because all the while they have been finding new gold as well. So it's not just the debt that's rising, it's also the amount of gold that's rising. That's why. Because I have to, I can't make this stuff up. I have to go from whatever the facts that seem the most reliable to me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat something because, oops, I said it was 40 or 45 or whatever, because that's what it happened to be. Yeah, it's because while the debt is absolutely rising, there is more gold. And the Department of the Interior runs a report on that on an annual basis. And the World Gold Council also will do that. So that's why. And thank you for pointing that out. Thank you. And because you know why? Because you held my toes to the fire. And I appreciate that, because I would like it if everybody held everybody's toes to the fire. Thank you. And Nathan Patel, 1786, asks, Battle Bank as a financial product in which you can borrow against gold purchases in an unallocated account. Do you think this is a good idea? I do, actually, and I don't know that we've accomplished it yet, but I can sit here and I can tell you for a fact that we are on the waiting list to become clients of Battle Bank. And if you haven't seen it yet, Rick Rule was on air a couple of weeks ago or something like that, talking about it. So go back and watch that video. And are we, oh, no. And EC5957 says, I don't know why 90% silver gets a bad reputation. I don't hear people saying bad things about pre-33 gold that's 90% too. It's not pure. Yeah, I am a gold bug, but one time this stock person was interviewing me, and he called me a gold bug, and I don't get insulted by it. I just find it really interesting, and it very nicely called him a stock snake. Ooh, he didn't like that at all. So, all of this is about perception management. I don't know why. I don't even know why it's called junk silver. I love 90% silver. I love sterling silver. I agree with you. They do it so that people will stay away from things, right? Or it gives it a negative connotation, junk silver. Well, here's the reality. You want to know what's junk? All of this crap is junk. This crap is junk. This is not gold. These are the physical representation of cryptocurrencies. That's what junk is. I'm right there with you. I agree 100%. High resistance chicks, 777FW4MB. PG here. I love your desk display. I hope you have a security guard. I have a lot of security here in layers. Lynette, who do you sell to? I save all seeds. I go to the Amish at the end of the year, buy their food, and save the seeds. You know, Morgan is the one that really kind of manages that whole piece. So stay tuned because I don't have the answer to that, but I know she does. So we'll get you the answer because that's very important. And since you brought up security, I had a CSI client and he told me that if somebody really wants to get in, they will get in. So what you need to do is create layers of security. And that is really what I've done on this property. So makes me feel better. I also have lots of people here all the time. I have no privacy. So even though I'm going to be gone, lots and lots of people will still be here. So that gives me a high level of comfort. And of course, you guys have met Juliet. But she's just one layer. And the people are just one layer. And we'll be showing you more different layers. But that's what you need to really think about, is creating layers of security like nasty, spiny things by all windows. So if anybody thinks they're going to get in through a window, make them pay dear. They're not going to want to do it. Security doors, security shutters that would stop a bullet or prevent somebody from throwing a rock through. That's another way to do it. There's just lots of different layers of security. And it's very important. So thank you for bringing that up because it is something that I do have absolutely thought of. And Facebook, Brad Yaden asks, I bought silver bullion through the Perth Mint via my SMSF and pay for storage. Is it safe from possible future government confiscation? Also, what percentage of a portfolio should be allocated to silver? You know, Perth Mint or any mint or anybody that is a third party holding your gold or silver, if the government demands it, they are not going to stop it. And a few years ago, I think when I first went to Australia to do a show and I had looked up that gold had been confiscated in Australia, I think it was 58, but don't hold me to the date. And when I got there and I said that, and everybody told me that I was wrong, but I've subsequently done, more digging on that. And, I'd have to look back on my notes and will before I get there. But yeah, Australia has a history of confiscation. And when you stop and think about what they did during COVID with the putting people in the different kind of camps and stuff, I mean, you do what you're comfortable doing. And even if you're choosing to keep it at the Perth Mint, again, you want to have some that's out so that if that should happen, then you're okay because you've got other gold that you're actually holding. So I don't think the Perth Mint itself is not a reasonable and safe place. And I don't remember his name, but I did have dinner with him the first time I went to Australia. Through Good as Gold Australia, we had that dinner party. They had a little dinner party, and so I got to meet them. I haven't been to Perth yet, and I'm not on this trip either. But And I can't tell you what percentage of a portfolio should be allocated to silver because I think it needs to be based upon what your current cost of living is. But we'll help you. And hopefully I'll see you when I'm there in Australia and we can have a conversation. Percentage? I don't know. That's not the way I do it. So it's kind of hard to say because we do have it all broken down. This is what you need barterable silver for. This is what you need barterable gold for. What percentage of that? You know, a lot of times it'll be, say, on the barterable part of the portfolio. So not the overall portfolio. And maybe this is really what you're asking me. I'll throw it out there and you can decide whether or not that's so. But on just the barterable part of the portfolio where we determine this is the amount of cash you need, this is the amount of digital gold you need, this is the amount of, gold backs that you need, this is what you need for your barterable gold position, your barterable silver position. A lot of times that is 70% silver to 30% gold. But it's going to vary a little bit. But in general, that's probably just in the barterable part of the portfolio. When you get into the growth part of the portfolio, for me, you do whatever you want. For me, this is what I use. So this is my barterable portfolio. This is my growth portfolio. And it might be a 70% silver to 30% gold split just in the barterable part of the portfolio. Maybe that's what you were asking. So do we have time for one more? Okay. This has Gotta Drive SD. Been buying gold for 6 years now. The dollar's not going to collapse till like year 2050. LOL. It's already collapsing. I mean, I don't know. Wouldn't you say a 97% loss is collapsing? And it was interesting because this morning, you definitely want to watch this. George Gammon came on, and I love George. We've known each other for, I think the first time I interviewed him was 2017. I might be wrong about that, but that's how long we've known each other. And he was the first person to say, hey, come and do an event. So he's the one that got me into live events. And we had a conversation this morning, and he was talking about how this dichotomy will be happening where the dollar, and we've talked about this before, where the dollar will be so strong against all those other currencies, and yet the purchasing power is just imploding. So don't mix those two up. And when we talk about a dollar collapse, I mean, the dollar against the pound or the dollar against the euro or the dollar against any other fiat currency is just on a relative basis, and it really doesn't mean a whole lot. What really matters is what you can buy with this stuff. And this $10 trillion note that I can't buy anything, I mean, honestly, do not be blinded by numbers because the numbers really don't matter. What matters is you sustaining your standard of living. What matters is you protecting your wealth and the people that you care about and your ability to go into a brighter future. Because everything we talk about is ugly and nasty and horrendous, but that's not really the way I look at it either. And I do look at a big part of my job is to give you hope. I have a lot of hope. I don't think that I seem particularly depressed or what have you. It's really partly why I have to surround myself with pretty stuff, because my head is always buried in this nasty, ugly stuff. But I have a lot of hope for our future. And I see a future where we are not slaves and the public has taken their power back, and we don't have hyperinflation. We don't have horrendous inflation. at all because the public has their power back. And we stop working for this disgusting corporate debt. I will be doing that as soon as she's finished with that chart. I promise you, that's probably the very first thing that I'm going to dig into because I'm chomping at the bit to do it. So this is me signing off for today. Thank you so much for everybody being here. What? Oops. Nope. Okay. Sorry, not quite. I'm going to remind you guys that coming up, I will be in North Carolina on between May 6th and the 8th at the Plutus Impact Summit 2026. This is at the Dubois Center in UNC Charlotte Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm very excited about that. There's also some other peripheral things that I'm going to be doing there, but the Plutus Impact Summit, it's an annual event that's organized by the Plutus Foundation and Bernadette Joy, who is, this woman really does match her name. She is absolutely a joy to be around. Very energetic, very, very brilliant. And I know I enjoyed meeting her. Wow, I met her in Malaysia, and I'm doing an event for her with her in North Carolina. So the event theme is the power of one. And I'm going to add inside of the community. And I hope to see some people there in person because that's my favorite, is doing these live events. I love it. It's why I love Tuesdays so much. And I didn't tell you this. This is so exciting. And I don't know if we posted it, but we have begun to move into our new offices. Wow, this is amazing. We've been working on this for so long. And yep, not everything is moved in yet. But the special piece we bought in Australia, and I don't know, is Ashley going to share what Jacqueline sent out to all of us on social. So stay tuned with the social. And also I'll tell you that National Silver Day is coming up, April 7th? And so we have a giveaway on that going on as well. And one little last reminder, if you are a client, you get your first dime card free and the rest of them for you to help spread the word and build the movement for sound money. You get the rest of them at our cost. We don't need to make even 1 penny on these things. The point of them is to spread the word, and I will be spreading these all over Australia and New Zealand when I'm there. So thank you guys so much for being here. I love the questions. Anyone that you think, write down. I'll be back. I'll see you next week. Different time, 3 o'clock Arizona time. But I will be here. And until next we meet, I 100% know that together we can make a positive difference for all the world, even if they don't realize they need it. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.